Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Turner Music Academy. I am your host, Michael Turner, and today we're going to be talking about a lot of different things on the channel, and let's get into it. So the first thing is I've actually decided to format this channel and the other channel a little differently, just in terms of script. There is a script for each video, although generally speaking, on this channel it tends to be very loose because I have so much knowledge, and the other one is based off of experience. So we're talking about just like I said, a few different topics today, and definitely like, share, subscribe these videos if you're interested in them or you know of anyone that is interested in music. Go check out my other channel, which is Turner Life Sport, which is a vlogging channel. It's all about fitness and a little bit of philosophy. I've not incorporated a lot of philosophic videos because I might just make a channel about philosophy, but it is definitely philosophy oriented. And link to that in the description, and just consider being a supporter of both of these channels and check out my design studio. There'll be a link to that in the description as well. You can go on there and purchase 53 different designs, and if you want a custom design or work of art like a still life or a portrait painting or a landscape, you can just message me on there or email turnerdesign11@gmail.com. You can also just Google the design studio, Turner Design Studios, and it should show up. So yeah. So the first thing I wanted to talk about today is a little bit about what I've been working on, which is actually an album. I've been working on an album for years, and the album right now is called Philosophia, which is Greek for philosophy, and the discography for that is here are the songs, to give you guys a preview about what it's about. And the first song is called Meditations, which is about I won't get too much into it right now. And then there's Chronos, and then here's the key signatures for all of the songs. So then this song is called Chronos, which is about time, and this song is called Virtue. The song is called Vice. The song is called Agape, which means love, basically unconditional love in Greek. Thanatos, which means death. Cosmos, which actually, interestingly enough, cosmos in Greek does not mean like what we consider cosmos as in modern, like outer space. It does mean outer space, but it means outer space in the sense of the world. So it means like the illusion of the world. And then I've got Ira or Ira, which is in E minor, which is Latin for anger. And then I've got the Chinese character for money, which is about money. And the song is money, but Pink Floyd already did that, so you know. And then I've got The Way, or Tao, and then there's the character for Tao, which basically is kind of like a song about following your own path and creating your own path and knowing yourself. And then this last song I just put on there is a experimental song. It's called Order, or Mathematos, which is Greek for mathematics. So basically the song is all about how the world is structured and ordered, and almost how reality is kind of fluid, and how there's a lot of bendable things that happen in life, and law of attraction, and just how everything in life is ordered. So it's just a very out there song, which is cool. So that's, like I said, what I've been working on. And also wanted to talk about my 3 Pillars of Music book that I have made and I am making from that initial lesson series. So I've got 3 different things here. Here's like the cover of it in rough draft. This is chapter 3 to chapter 4. And then I'm incorporating some of the notes into all of that information. So it is a ton of stuff. And this is all filled. As you can see, like there's the grand staff from the previous lesson. And here is like just kind of how far I've gotten in terms of, I don't want to give too much away here, but this is 60, that was 60 pages. And if I remember correctly, this should be 60 pages as well. So it's 30 pages front and back, both of those. So I'm like, got however much that is. I'm over halfway done with it. So, yeah, it's a long book, to say the least. And the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about, which I guess I'm just going to jump right in and do this, which is talk about Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd, that's actually what I based my album off of, Pink Floyd. I didn't copy them in any way, shape, or form, but in 1973, they released Dark Side of the Moon, and that was like a great album. One of the best-selling album for 15 years straight. Definitely check that out if you have not checked it out. I'm going to put a link to their 50th anniversary song or album in the description, just so you all can listen to it if you haven't listened to it. And yeah, I mean, like I said, definitely check that out. They're really great. Pink Floyd has always been like a pretty big influence to me as a musician. And I personally think that David Gilmour is the best guitarist recorded ever. Just how his technique is just really great. You have to really practice to get his technique down. So again, just shout out to him and, Roger Waters and Nick Mason and, Richard Wright, even though he's dead, and Syd Barrett, even though he died. So there you go. And I was going to do a Circle of Fifths lesson, but I don't want to right now, just because a lot of the content on this channel has been already like music, just lesson oriented. So one thing that I do want to ask is, what do you guys want to see? Like here I have, like I was going to do a video all about the guitar, and of course that kind of changed to like, today it changed to like a front man, a video all about being mindful of like how to be a professional front man. And case in point, so that along with the Circle of Fifths lesson is probably going to still come into the fro, it's going to build off of the last lesson. So, but I do want to just touch base and ask, like, what do you guys want to see? Like I said, because like I want to know what kind of content to create for you guys. Do you guys want to see like song composition? Do you want a composition video? Do you want more theory videos? Do you want more bass videos? Do you want musical notation videos? Do you want, like, what do you want? I've already covered a great deal of information in my 3 Pillars of Music video. So like I said, what do you guys want to see? Do you guys want to see like analysis of songs? What do you guys want to see? And maybe I'll get a response back from someone. So one thing that I wanted to do for at least this video is to read at least like maybe 1 to 3 pages of the 3 Pillars of Music video, book that I'm writing, just to kind of hold everything with an open hand, and also to see, like, to emphasize the fact that if you are new to the channel and you're just watching this, like, to first of all emphasize, like I was saying, to go back and watch the other videos. But if you have a question on that lesson, then hopefully this will clear something up for you if you don't want to go back and watch those other videos, etc. So I'm going to just read briefly this book, and we'll kind of see how it goes. So I'm going to be mindful of time here. So just 5 minutes is, like, where I'm at. And if it's shorter than that, then I'll do the lesson on the circle of fifths in 5 minutes, if I have time. So the 3 Pillars of Music, designed from a professional, national award-winning, record deal rejecting, multi-instrumentalist and composer for you, intended to take you from zero to hero. Michael Turner. So initially I wrote a preface, but it really turned out into an introductory chapter because it's like 20 pages long. So I might actually write or read 6 pages from this just to get it out of the way. So now I know what you're thinking. Who is this guy, and why in the world is someone trying to sell me another gimmick? Well, you'd only be half right. That is, in presuming, of course, that I am intending to make money with this book. Make no mistake, I have been a musician for 20 years. Throughout these 2 decades, I have won a national award and have been offered a record deal, as well as had many other experiences and learned a tremendous amount of music. Also about music and what music is. Keep in mind, this is a rough draft, so I purposely wrote this with the intention of writing 3 pages at least a day. And if I'm aware that some things don't flow as best as they can, so just, keep in mind, like I said, this is a rough draft. So to briefly illustrate why I've written this book, let me start by orating the slogan of my art and design company, "The Sky is Not the Limit." That is at least 51% of why I'm writing this for you. You can be a great musician. The flip side intent, however, much like any shadow casting shade, is darker. I'm going to share with you now something that I've learned from personal experience. Are you ready? Most musicians in the world are dilettantes and/or are incredibly and unremarkably unskilled. What do I mean by that? Well, for starters, most musicians aren't multi-instrumentalists, so most musicians don't have a great understanding of how music is written. To further illustrate this, by my experience and estimation, and from what I've talked to other great professionals about, conservatively 90% of guitarists are not classically trained and can't read the treble clef because they've gotten so used to a horrible, quick, and easy fix system like tablature. That's embarrassing. Also, music is a language. It teaches one how to hear, much like drawing teaches one to see, and to close who wouldn't have a heartbeat if it weren't for music and rhythm itself. I'm going to be explaining what makes a professional musician, and more or less how to become one, but first I'm going to give you some history as to why or what sparked me writing this for you. I grew up in a musical house. My sister was singing all the time. She'd drum on things too, but that's a whole other thing entirely. Both my parents are multi-instrumentalists, but they don't like to really show it like I do. By that, I mean get in your face and prove it. Much like anything, there's a root that has to be there for the foundation, and said root is in the ground or covered by dark and dankness. While I can certainly say I am definitely clean and not dank, there is a pretty uncomfortable event that set the tone for most of my music career as a youth. All right, so I'm going to read one more page. I'm like 6 pages in. So when I was going into 6th grade, I was taught to play trombone. I use air quotations on the word taught because I was really programmed with an understanding of actually a part of the first pillar of music, that being music notation. The teachers taught a great deal about slide positions, names of notes, accidentals exclusive to flats because I was learning trombone. But you see, among all the other things like tempo and how to count, there was the clef, that being F, though never called bass, and after that we learned something called the key signature, except we never learned it. I was told this is what it's called. It's going to be here in your music while you read. And then very briefly, that the key of B flat has 2 flats in it, even though I was taught the B flat major scale ascending and descending. I was never told the connection between the scale and the key signature. Let me just stop and say that if you have any musical understanding professionally, you're probably laughing out loud where you're standing or sitting. All right, so that is as far as, like I said, I'm going to go today. And let me check the time. Okay, so I am going to do the lesson to build off of what I talked about. So here's one example of how you can really use circle of fifths to your advantage, and the sky becomes not the limit. So first of all, as I've previously discussed in another video, this is your note order of sharps in your key signature, and this is your order of flats. So basically, like right here, right? Hang on just a second. So this is the G major scale ascending, okay? And I've already talked about in theory like how to get this from the chromatic scale. So basically with circle of fifths, we know, so let's just say that like we're in, I've already kind of started something here. It's actually going into the book, so let's jump to treble clef. I have to do this. All right, and then, let's see here. So we're in treble clef, and we're going to be writing down the G major scale. Okay, so we have our G. So G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then G. Okay. So let me see here. Okay, so here we go. Down. Here we go. Of course, the perfectionist in me is saying, do everything right, you know. Okay, so here we're in the G major scale. Like I said, just ignore this. So what's cool about the circle of fifths, and again, this is true for like any, like all theory, is that we know that basically if we're in the key, like if I were to write this, clearly this does not have a key signature. So let's give it one. All right, so we're just gonna like jump from this. Notice there's no time signature, so let me write that down. Okay. I did it incorrect. So now we have our key signature. Okay. So our key signature, basically what you can do is white out there. I put the sharp in there. That's what happens when you write everything in pen. So basically what we can do is, because we know that our sharp is in like the key of, our sharp is an F sharp. What we can do is we can actually, like I showed you in the previous video with like understanding harmonies, is we can actually jump to the fifth note like in D major, and then we can actually so we have D, just a second. D, E, F. So it's this scale here. So notice that like our fourth is a G, okay, in D major. All right, and our fifth in D is actually an A. And from the key of G to D major, the next fifth, as you'll see in the circle of fifths, is A. Okay, so you see how this works? So basically, like with, like, you can theoretically think of it as like, so if you're at this point here, we'll just say this is point A, being, we could really do like anywhere, but we'll just do like G major, all right? Like I showed you here. We now, if we plug in like a key signature, a clef, and then let's just do like, we'll plug in the same key signature here because we could do accidentals if we get like way out of, way out there. Let's now plug in a time signature. And now we can really, like, once we get to either this note here, the subdominant, or this note here, the dominant, we can jump all over the place in different keys, okay? And what I mean by different keys is we can use in a progression different scales. So we could go like, in G major, we go all the way up to D, and then in D, we could go backward, we could go forward. So if we go forward to A, now we can jump in the key of A. You see what I'm saying? So more on that in the next video.